Obviously, it's hard to believe. Derek and I were just talking about it coming up the elevator. About a year ago today, I was having individual player meetings in my office. And it has been a whirlwind ever since. What an amazing year. I want to give, obviously, a lot of credit to the players and to our staff. For me, in doing it 19 years, I had about as much fun coaching this team as I've had coaching. Again, a lot of that credit goes to the players and the staff. We had great guys. Obviously we're not satisfied with where we are right now. We still have a long way to go. But there is some gratification from having a chance to watch these guys grow up and be resilient and be tough. We've talked a lot about that, where we started, what maybe people thought they could do, getting off to the start we were able to get off to, and then hitting a speed bump and having to be resilient and deal with adversity appropriately and handle it well and fight through some things and continue to play for the cause of having an opportunity for these seniors to play in the NCAA tournament and advance in the NCAA tournament. And I'm thrilled for those guys that they had that opportunity and that they had a chance to end their careers in a way that I think created a lot of special memories for them that no one will ever be able to take away from them. So I'm appreciative of that, and we feel blessed. Having said that, the way college basketball is, the year's up, and now it's time to move forward, and we're already at it. Our spring workouts started yesterday. Our individual player meetings have been this week, trying to get recentered on improvement individually, as a team. I wanted them to have some ownership in it, so they brought a lot of great ideas to some of the meetings, and we had good dialogue, and especially when it comes to their own individual improvement and development. We're excited about working with the guys this spring. Obviously, we'll be adding some new faces in June, and then we'll start to really lock in on team like we did last year at that time. So, we're excited. It's the momentum and the buzz, the excitement around our program right now is something I do not take for granted. Again, the players and the staff deserve a lot of credit for that. We're certainly headed in the right direction. We've climbed up that ladder and started to make that climb, and we still have a long way to go, but I love the direction that we're headed. I love the people that we've got in and around our program, and we're just going to keep grinding, and as I say, the players keep swinging that hammer every day and working to get a little bit better every day, because at the end of the day, that's really what we can control. So, questions?
John, what is the value of having it end the way it did, which was, even though you lost the game, a positive end? You were matched against a tough team. You played them right down to the wire. I would think your kids walk out of there with a good feeling about that whole NCAA experience. I'm thinking of somebody like Nana or Tracy who had a hand in it and so forth. Is that a good way for them to walk out of there?
Well, I think it was tough. That day was tough. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to be in that locker room after the game because guys have invested so much. I asked them to not save anything, that particular day, and to look back 10 years from now and say you gave everything you had. I've watched that film painfully, but they gave everything they had. I mean, everything. And, for that, I was proud of them. Having said that, I also think in some ways, Mark, I think the loss also motivated some of those guys you're talking about. I think I'm one of those guys that really believes success breeds success. I think those guys really kind of tasted that experience, some of them for the first time, and it's motivated them. I hope it motivates them a lot here in the off season because we've got to get a lot better.
Coach, you've got 5 players now to practice. Is that correct? What are your practice plan schedule? I mean, can you bring in anybody to work against them, or do you do that, or how does it
we
work?
have 6 total right now here in the spring. We have 2 hours a week in which we can work with them, Lauren. Those workouts are usually individually done with their position coach. Some of them will be some group workouts that I'll organize and run here. It is a short window because of it's the first place I've been in several years where we're on semesters. And so usually the spring's a lot longer We have basically 4 weeks plus or minus to work with them prior to the week before finals, which then we're not able to work with them that particular week or during final exam week. And then they'll have a chance to go home for a couple weeks plus or minus, and then we'll get them back in the summer. Obviously we've got still the guys from Brandon, DJ, some of those guys are around as well. That'll give us a chance to play when those guys play open gym. But our biggest 2 areas of concentration right now, Lauren, are the skill development and the weight room. And then obviously we don't need necessarily 10 at a time to do either one of those. So we're really locked in on those 2 areas right now. How do we make our guys better from a skill perspective? What do we add to their game? What needs enhanced? And then what are we doing in the weight room to become a stronger and more conditioned basketball team? So those are really our 2 focus points here in the spring.
Talk a little bit about DJ and Brandon, 2 guys who might have professional aspirations. How much are you going to be involved in preparing them for maybe workouts with pro teams?
Well, we'll be involved as much as they want us to be. I know that both those guys are working out with our staff. They've asked to be worked out by our staff. I'm going to, I think I got a lunch appointment tomorrow with one of them and then another one maybe before I leave for Atlanta. So I'm very involved, as much as they want us involved. I love those guys. They know that. We'll do whatever we can to help them. That's our job as coaches, is to try to help each player the best we can become the best they can be, to help them get to where they want to go. And we'll continue to do that with DJ and Brandon, not only now in the immediate, but, I told them they're stuck with me for the rest of their lives. So those guys are important to the university. They're important to the basketball program. They have a special place in certainly our staff's heart. The way they bought in was unbelievable. Those guys have left a great foundation for us moving forward, and we'll always be appreciative of that, and we'll help them any way we can.
Did you play that kind of role at Ohio State when you had guys like Mike Conley and Greg Oden moving on to the NBA?
I would say so. It's kind of the only way we know. That's our staff. We're very relationship based. This is a big picture deal for us. Obviously, we want to do really well and want them to do well during the time they're here at the University of Illinois. But we talk a lot with them about the next 40 years of their life, the next 30 years of their life, not just their time here at Illinois. And we want to be as involved as much as we can to help them as they allow us to be.
Transfers out last
Yeah.
week. How does that conversation go? I know it's a difficult.
It's hard. I love all those guys. I want to help all those guys. I think the world of all 3 of them. We're going to do, just like I mentioned with DJ and Brandon, they're no different. We're going to do everything we can to help those guys find the best fit for what they want. That's our job. Those guys will always be a part of my family. I've said that before, part of the Illinois family. They played here. So, we're in that mindset and mode as a staff where we're going to help every guy that's the best of our ability that we can get what they want and find a great fit. And, that's true of all 3 of those guys.
Were you surprised that Devin left?
I wouldn't say surprised. All 3 of them I thought played their role this past year really well. Sometimes guys, want bigger roles. That doesn't make them any less of a person or student. Those 3 guys are all terrific in both those areas. So, I wouldn't say overly surprised, Rob. Obviously the biggest thing with us at this point in time is not dwelling on the past or looking in the rearview mirror, but, hey, this is what they want. We want to help them get to where they want to go, and we want them to be successful.
Are you scholarships open now?
I'm sorry?
You have some scholarships open. What?
3, yep.
Do you plan to use any of them, or is it?
Aggressively every day, recruit every day. All options are, I know what you did, from 5th years to 4th years to, pushing them to 14 and 15. They're all open right now. All those scenarios are possibilities.
Coach, some of us don't understand the 5th-year market, and I'm sure you studied it. What's it like? You got Sam McLaurin last year, and that's 2 years in a row we've taken somebody. Is there 10, 20, 30? How many?
I don't know what the total number is, Lauren. I know they're highly sought after. A coach said to me the other day, they're almost as highly sought after as top 50 players in the country in the early signing period. it's kind of become that way a little bit. Especially if you can find the right guy, the right fit that meshes your culture and is a good fit for your program. So, we'll have our antennas up. Our job's to continue we recruit every day. The guy I used to work for used to say it's like shaving. If you don't do it every day, you're going to look pretty shabby. That's how recruiting is. You got to roll up your sleeves every day, and you got to be thinking about it every day. And, we're going to continue to try to get quality people in our basketball program as well as quality players.
Along the lines of the fifth-year players, do they tend to usually seek you out, or do you seek them out, or is it kind of mutual?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily mutual. It's probably one or the other. Depends on if you have a previously established relationship or not. I would say most of them, it's us seeking them out.
Obviously, if you're going for a fifth-year guy, it's an immediate need. What would you be looking for in a fifth-year guy?
Well, I think we have a lot of needs, obviously. Lauren just mentioned it. Obviously we have 5 incoming freshmen, but other than that, we have, 6 guys returning from this year's team out of 14. So I don't know if I can necessarily say, hey, we wouldn't take this need with a guy if he's a good fit in terms of the people part or the person part and the student-athlete part. I think we've got a lot of areas that we can shore up. Obviously we're going to be a little bit less experienced than we were this year, Jeremy. We've got some young guys coming in. It's going to be fun. We've got to build our team. As I've always said, as soon as you add or subtract a player from any team, the dynamic of the team to a certain degree changes just by the addition or subtraction of one player. It changes. And that's what's pretty cool about coaching, is trying to get guys to sacrifice and come together and become a team. Right now, is the year 2 team a team yet? No, the freshmen haven't even hit campus yet. They don't get it till June. So what we see is a roster or a depth chart, but I quantify or qualify team a little bit differently than most. Are we tough? Are we together? Do we trust one another yet? Do we trust the system? Obviously our recruits have a knowledge of the system through the recruiting process, but do they know the ins and outs of it like the returnees? No, and they shouldn't. So we've got some work to do there, and it's going to be exciting.
When you came here last year, you said you'd hope to play maybe as many as 9 or 10.
Yeah, long term, still the same. Yeah, that hasn't changed. That's what we'd like to do, and the one thing I will say is that and I really believe this: players play players. They earn it. We want to get to that point where we can play that. I think it's great for depth. I think it's great for the tempo that we want to play. I think it's great for the attacking style we want to play defensively. I think we can be even more aggressive. I know we finished the year, I think Dustin told me, #1 in the league in forcing turnovers. I think we can be even more aggressive with depth.
Obviously, you lose the players to transfer, you lose some seniors, a little bit thinner. I think you're going to obviously have to have a freshman come in and play immediately, at least a few of them. I know it's hard to tell now, but how do you kind of see that shaking out?
Well, right now they're all in play. We've recruited all of them to have that opportunity to play. They've got to go out and earn it. There's opportunity there, obviously. You just alluded to it. We'll let those guys battle for that. I think the more depth you have, your practices are better. Everybody gets better. We had that situation my 3rd and 4th year at the last place that I was at, and I think it benefits everybody a great deal. So we should have more depth. Who kind of rises to the top, everybody will have that opportunity.
Do you have any early candidates to take over for Brandon Miller?
Not at this point. First of all, obviously Brandon's, I think the world of him. I coached him and have coached with him, and he was a big part of our staff this past year. Our wives are close. Brandon and I are close. I mean, he did a fantastic job. I'm excited about the opportunity that he has at Butler. It's his alma mater. He played there. He stayed within our coaching family. I think the world of Brad and the way that he does things, and we wish him nothing but the best. I think it's a great move for his natural maturation of what he wants to do as a coach, and fully support it. No different than the players, Rob. My mindset's the same with the coaches. My job is to know what each guy wants and where they want to go and what their goals are, and my job's not to hold them back. My job's to help them get there. That's what I'm called to do as the head coach. So, I'm really excited for him and his family.
Brandon, you came back here to take this position where he wasn't on the road and doing that stuff. Did he get the itch again, being around?
No, I think Brandon and Brandon's a little different in that, from the standpoint of, for him, I don't think it was necessarily, I think that may have been part of it, Marcus, the itch, but it's, where he's working, played there, coached there, he's an alum there, the people that are there, people are really important to Brandon, and I think he's feels very comfortable in that setting, and I think he'll do a great job there.
Is it fair to say that because his boys are a couple of years older, that Holly can sort of manage them by herself, and that's why it's okay
I don't
for
know.
him to-
You have to ask Holly. She plays a lot of zone, 1 versus 2, and my wife does as well. I think all coaches' wives play zone when you have multiple kids, and obviously she does a great job with Mason and Michael. And she's got broad shoulders. I'll say that.
You always want to get somebody that you have ties to in the past, or would you like to get somebody ties to the program?
I'm pretty open-minded, Jeremy, other than the fact the one thing I'm going to be pretty stringent on is I want a very similar profile to what Brandon brought to the table. And what I mean by that is, the ability to do advanced scouting, the knowledge of the game that he had, I thought was really, really helpful. The way he operated video, I thought was great. Really, really helped us in terms of putting things together, and his background and the different experiences that he's had. I thought he was very well-rounded. So in a perfect world, we'd like to find someone with a similar profile.
Coach, talk a little bit about the schedule, and will you have another game at the United Center other than the UIC game, or just that one game?
We have one game there. We're going to continue. Mike and I have talked a lot about it philosophically. We love playing up there. We're going to continue to do that. Obviously, under contractual obligation, Lauren, we're playing, and I can't remember the exact number. DB may know. 3 times. Is this the 3rd time we're playing them? 2nd time? UIC? We'll be fine. Okay. See, he knows I don't, Lauren. So whatever that contractual obligation is, we're committed to fulfilling it, and that's the game we'll be playing up there this next year.
To talk further about the scheduling, does the formation of this team, the way you see it, affect how you schedule?
Without question. Yeah, I think each team, as we look at it, I think, I've always said I think recruiting and scheduling are really important, Lauren. I think that as we look at it, every year we attack it, not just this team, but every year we attack it. We're looking at it through the eyes of our team and what our team needs the most, and so that that doesn't change. I mean, that lens we look through is the same every single year, trying to do that. Obviously we've talked about it numerous times with the schedule. We have a very unique schedule, maybe relative to the rest of the league, and certainly not apologizing for it. We love it. I mean, I love going to the United Center. It's great. We do that every year. We play Missouri every year. It's a great, fantastic series. We play the ACC Big Ten Challenge every year. So those things are in stone. I don't know how many Big Ten teams have 3 things in stone like that. They may have 1, maybe 2, but not 3. Obviously the addition of some schools to our league here in another year, not this upcoming year, does that add games? I think it remains to be seen how that affects the schedule, but we're cognizant of it and aware of it, and we'll continue to do the best we can to put one together that fits each team, that makes a lot of sense.
Can you go further and explain, do you consider this a young team and therefore not?
I would say it's a young team relative to what we just coached, for sure. I think regardless of the age of our team, one of the things that Mike and I have talked a great deal about is trying to fix, correct. We need more home games relative to what the rest of our league is playing. That's our number 1 priority with scheduling moving forward. We tried to address that with this upcoming schedule, and we're going to do that with future schedules as well.
Talking a little bit about, I guess, a younger team coming in, the one that you coached, you talked about instilling a mentality into the returning players. How much will you rely on those returning players to instill that mentality into the freshmen, when you're not around?
Well, we rely on them a great deal. Obviously they've got a year experience in our system and in our culture. I think we've made a lot of strides with the culture piece. I think that's as important as anything else. And those guys, I'm hoping they do, show the freshmen the way in a lot of areas. I think that's important. I know Tony Dungy calls it regenerative leadership. When your older peers start teaching the next set of guys, and then they leave, and then they get a little older, and they teach the next set of underclassmen, and that's building a program. I think that's what great programs have. Are we quite there yet? No, but, we've been here a year. Those guys are started to figure quite a few of the things out. Maybe don't have it down quite yet. Like this is the first real spring we've had with them. First time. Yesterday's the first time they've had the meetings we had with them in the spring like we had them yesterday. They hadn't done that before. So they're still going through some things right now for the first time, but I do think their experience in terms of what they brought to the table over the last 12 months will be really beneficial for our young guys.
You mentioned you're heading down to Atlanta this weekend. Have you been able to watch any other of the tournament?
A little bit here and there. Not necessarily a game in its entirety. Really for two reasons. One, it's kind of hard to watch games for me. And then secondly, I've been really busy. Had a lot going on.
What have you seen from Rayvonte setting out this year? What skill sets he going to bring? How do you see him fitting in?
Well, I think the first thing is he had a great sit-out year. He's right there along with maybe, in my 19 years, I can think of maybe one or two other players that were transfers that set out that had a comparable year in terms of improvement that Rayvonte had from the time he got here until now. And we're excited about that. He still has a ways to go. He's worked very, very hard. We met with him yesterday. He's done a good job in school. He's lost 30-some pounds. He's dropped 5% in body fat. He's got up a ton of shots in the off season. He's lifted his tail off. I think he's in the best condition he's been in since he's been in college in terms of cardiovascular. I mean, he's really worked hard. So that certainly gives us a lot of optimism. And, for him now it's all about how can I get a little bit better. Being a guy that takes that mindset every day like he has throughout this past year. Not resting on some of his successes that he's had, whether it's in the weight room or skill stuff or practice throughout this year, but continuing to drive himself to become even better. And I think he'll do that.
He'll be asked to do a lot. Do you feel like his personality and his makeup allows him to do that without much of a hitch?
Yeah, he's a tough kid. I mean, I really, he's a, Dustin call him Wolf. He's a tough kid. And I think he can handle, he'll need help just like everybody else needs help. And he'll make mistakes just like we all do. But at the end of the day, I know he's going to compete. I know he's going to take a lot of pride in putting on that jersey. I know he can't wait to do that. So I think he's pretty excited, and we're excited to get him out there.
Do we have any questions from the phone lines for Coach?
Yes, this is Shannon. I just had a follow-up about Rayvonte also. What kind of role do you think he'll have? How quickly can he connect with your plan for him with the other players, and just how big of a role what do you think he'll have?
Well, I think he can play a big role, Shannon, in large part because he has the ability to affect the game in so many areas. He can rebound for his position. He can defend. He's a great athlete. He's physically strong. He can score. He can get to the free throw line. He's very, very, very versatile. And I think because of that, guys that have that type of makeup, on a given night, maybe his shot's not going, but he gets you on the glass, and he's a dominant defender out there. He just does so many things that I think have a chance to affect our basketball team because of his versatility that, we expect a lot of him. He expects a lot of himself. I mean, he does. And I love that about him. He drives himself. He's very motivated right now. We're going to continue to help him as a staff, but I think he has a very bright future.
Also, just want to ask you, Joe Bertrand, what development do you want to see out of him for next year?
Well, biggest thing with Joseph is we want to continue to develop his upper body strength. We want to continue to develop his catch and shoot game, continue to tighten up his handle. We talked about a lot of different things yesterday. Then he shared a couple thoughts, and JoJo will work hard. Anything you ask him to do, he'll do it. I mean, he's a great kid, wants to be really good, and obviously had a chance to be a huge part of what we did this year, and I think that's motivated him as well as it has some of the other guys.
John, Herb Gould, I know you talked about it at length, but just so it's crystal clear, how would you assess the chances of using one of those scholarships, one or more, for your roster for next year?
Strong.
And that would be, I mean, you're looking mostly at the kids that are graduated that are able to transfer?
All options, Herb, to be honest with you, like I said earlier. Every possible scenario you can imagine. So right now it's more about us trying to find the right fit for our program, the right fit for the university. Do they address needs? We're looking at all options. But I think your question was, if I was guessing, and we have 3 to give, what are the chances that I'm going to use at least one of them this spring? Very strong.
And 2 and 3?
We'll see.
Hey, Coach, this is Stu Durando in St. Louis. I just wonder if you could talk specifically a little bit about Malcolm Hill and just, what development or have seen maybe in him since last year, if you have been able to see him at all, and what you see coming from him.
Well, obviously we're excited about Malcolm because he's such a great fit from the standpoint that, when I first got here, he was really, he was, I think, maybe the second guy that came to campus, and I sat down with him and I very quickly learned, number one, how humble and hungry he is. Number two, how much he loves the University of Illinois. And then you watch him and you see, tons of upside. Obviously, he's a really good player now, but I think his best days are clearly ahead of him, especially once he adds strength to his frame. A little bit like Ray, who we were discussing earlier, Malcolm has an ability to get to the free throw line. He has mid-range. He can shoot the ball. He's very versatile, especially on the offensive end. I think one of the challenges for certainly high school kids, period, regardless of who they are, is putting as much emphasis and importance on the defensive end as they do the offensive end. We'll have more of a gauge for that in regard to Malcolm this summer, as we will the other 4 freshmen. But he's certainly talented. We're very excited about having him in our program, and I think he's one of those guys where the sky's the limit.
Well, following up on that idea, plus what you said earlier about fifth-year transfers being like top 50 guys, Lauren wants you to redshirt all of the incoming freshmen.
Is that right?
And,
No.
But
No,
is
I
it?
don't.
But is it possible that do you foresee any of them taking a year to put on some strength?
I don't know. I never make that decision, to be honest with you, and even entertain that with anyone until we get through, Rob, the first couple weeks of practice. So, we want spring, we want summer, we want fall, we want to practice. I always try to gauge it at that point in time. I think it's way too early, to tell. I'll give you an example. In the 90s, we had a kid that was working out in skill at a place I was at, and he was terrific. I mean, if you'd asked the staff, and at that time we could only do skill workouts in small sample size, hey, there's no question he's going to play for us that particular year. But then when practice started and we put 9 other guys out there, we started playing, and actually 2 or 3 other guys passed him. It's hard to judge. I'll give you another one that's funny. DJ Cooper came in to see me after the middle of the summer and said, "Boy, Coach, I'm having a rough time with the workouts, the weightlifting. I've never done this before. You think I can play here?" That's kind of my point. Like their evolution, guys, like you really don't know until you start practice and you actually see them in a team setting on a consistent basis, Rob. I do think the summer months, the way the NCAA's changed the rule, has helped that we can work with our team for a portion of those 2 hours per week in the summer. That'll certainly give us more of an idea. But even saying that, you're talking maybe 8 total 1-hour practices in 8 weeks. So we're really not going to know until practice starts. Right now, it's open. As I mentioned to the gentleman in the back, we've recruited all these guys to impact our program. I think they can. To what level they're going to have to. They're going to have to earn that. But we're excited about having all of them. We've got a lot of roster spots that are open based on year 1 to year 2, and guys are going to have to go out and earn them. As I said earlier, players play players.
Can you talk a little bit about what you'd like to see from Donna Egwu over the summer?
Yeah, I'm excited about him. He improved a great deal throughout the year. I think he can take another jump, especially with his body. I think strength and conditioning is really important for Nana. I think he would tell you that. The one thing about him, when you tell him to do something, you ask him to do 10 push-ups, he does 11. and he's something else. His work ethic is off the charts. His motor runs all day long. So, I'm excited about the improvement that I think he can make under the guidance of Dustin does a good job with them in the position coach stuff. Mike will do a good job with him in the weight room, and I expect him to make strides on both the court and with his strength and conditioning.
Just in completing then, Tracy and Mike, additionally, could you just mention a couple things?
Tracy, same thing. Mark, strength. I think that's a big thing for him. I think he'll do a great job there. We'll continue to work shooting with Trace, and I thought he really started to develop, to some of the things we were needing him to do in terms of from the point position. He still has some ground to make there, up there, and he knows that. He's a willing listener. He loves to study film. He continued to get better as the year went on, and I anticipate him getting better as well. Henry, again, strength. I think that's a big deal for Mike, especially at the position he plays for us, kind of as an undersized, rugged, 4. We need him to be more rugged. Continuing to develop his shot and developing maybe a little bit of a game around the basket, I think could be helpful to him and our team as well. But all those guys got better. Now we need him to take another jump.
Any further questions from the phone line for Coach? Herb, you're all done?
I'm good, thanks.
Anything else here in the room? All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it all year.
Thanks, John.
Yep.